Welcome to the Live Incredibly podcast. In today's episode, I am joined by Coupe. Lewis is a singer-songwriter, musician, and not to mention absolute phenom on the piano. So thank you for listening and enjoy the show. I don't even know if you remember this or not, but it was Christmas,
Yes.
not last year, the year before, so 2022. Me and my girlfriend Katie were in London just going to the Christmas markets because I've not done the London Christmas markets beforehand. And whilst we were just sitting there, half cut, enjoying ourselves with the lights, you just came up with a friend of yours with a camera and sat right next to us. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's going on? And you asked us a few questions there. And if I remember rightly, it was all about what makes home feel like home.
Yeah.
What was the idea behind that? What was actually going on? Because I was kind of just taken in a mad flurry when you approached us.
First, I'm so glad you just brought up that story again, because you have told me this, but I'd forgotten that was it. So yeah, I wrote a song during the pandemic. I did a project during the pandemic, which was called 13 Songs.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, because I'm really rubbish at thinking of names for things, so I just keep it as basic as possible. And also 13 is my granddad's lucky number. So I did a project called 13 Songs, and the idea was to write a song and make a music video every week for 13 weeks running up to Christmas. It was during one of the lockdowns, the real cold winter, October to December lockdown we had. And we already had one and we were going back into it. So I needed something to do. So I was going to do this project. But I didn't really feel confident I could write enough songs. And I was just going to do these weird little sort of soundscapes things just to make myself, faff around with some production stuff.
Yeah.
And then I did an intro song. And then the first song I wrote was this song called Do You Feel at Home? And then I was like, oh, I'm kind of actually writing full songs now. It was first tune in and I was like, oh no, I'm writing songs.
Yeah, because I couldn't find the clip anywhere or any clips similar to you asking people.
Oh, did you not? Have you seen the video? Have you seen the film?
Video. Am I in the video?
So we ended up not using the footage.
Did you use the footage? I couldn't find the clips for it. I heard the song. I loved the song.
Right, okay.
I wasn't sure whether it was that one or not, because I just remember that one was the one with home in the title. I was like, home, yeah, that makes sense. But it didn't seem very Christmassy, so I was like, oh, is it Christmas? Is it not? Is it?
Well, there's two versions. There was one I did a little version at home, and I made a little montage of travel footage I had, and then I did another. I re-recorded it. What would it be? 2 years ago now? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was
so I re-recorded it and then did a new version with a little music video, and then I wanted to make a little film about it. So me and my friend Joe, we went around asking people what makes you feel at home, and then I was editing the film together, and the footage just didn't look very good. just didn't have a vibe. It just felt like too much of I was just randomly interviewing people. So I took the audio and put it over a different film. I shot some new stuff at home myself and then did it. So there is a film.
Yes, because I didn't know whether it was that or not. Oh no, I actually haven't seen it. I had long hair, pretty similar to yours back then as well.
Yeah, I thought you looked different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all gone. I'm currently in Australia, so it's 5 p.m. now. But it was only 2 weeks ago, if that. I ended up
tied it all off.
All gone. Hate it.
I've thought you hated the hair.
No, I like it, but I just much preferred it with long hair. I just much prefer long hair.
Oh, you do? Okay. Oh, you don't like the shorts.
It's nice. I just prefer, having long hair. It's just cool as fuck. I've seen the stuff with your pictures when you're out there, especially your album cover looking ones. The album cover looking pictures just look sick, and if anyone catches you off guard, it kind of looks cool still. But I mean, when you're rocking a buzz cut, you've kind of got to be eyes on, facing the camera, really moody.
Yeah, I don't know. I have thought about cutting on. a lot of
Don't
times. I've been
don't do
like,
it.
should I just get rid of it? Should I do it? But I'm still doing it now. Had it for nearly 10 years now.
10. I had mine 3 years. 3 years. But now we're on because we're on the East Coast in Sydney. Is it? Well, there's it's just terrible for long hair. Like it just splits loads.
Wow.
It dries it out in and out the sea. So it kind of like got to a point where I needed to get rid of it anyway, just so I can
Wow.
grow it back again. It's not as healthy and as glamorous and beautiful as yours is. I'll tell you that much. Or wasn't.
I don't
But
know if this
hopefully
is
when I grow it back.
glamorous. Don't know if this is glamorous hair. I'm gonna lie.
But yeah, anyway, sorry, just going on a little bit of a tangent there. Anyway, but because when it came to the questions you were asking then, I remember like with it being very Christmassy and like you were very upbeat when you came up to me and you were very like charismatic, which is great. But as I'm listening to the song afterwards, I kind of fully get what you were saying, where it doesn't quite go with the music itself because it was very like energetic and charismatic. That makes sense?
What? And then my songs are like a different vibe.
That song, yeah.
Yeah.
You got very powerful sort of melodic, like bass to all your music, and I absolutely love it. It's just gonna be, I imagine, quite hard to film for as well. If you're thinking about filming in mind for the songs that you write.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is like, I love cameras and I love making things as well, but I'm not like a skilled technician in really anything, to be honest.
Jack of all trades.
Well, master of none, I think.
Some might say
Don't really.
you're pretty good at piano. Some might say.
Yeah, but I don't understand the piano. I mean, I understand it in my way, but only in my way, and I can only learn things the way I learn them. Otherwise, I will not get it for years. I had lessons.
How is your way? Because I did read your Spotify bio beforehand, saying that something about music school not going to plan.
Yeah, I did little bits of lessons before I was really interested in music, and I didn't really enjoy them, and I started teaching myself piano, and I was taking keyboard lessons, which was the one where you press the music and you got a little thing going and you hold the chord.
DJ, turn it
And
up.
I just hated it. Like I really didn't enjoy it, and I never practiced, and I was really bad. I don't think I even passed my grade 2. It was like I was really poor at it.
So how did you learn things in your own way? What kind of brings that around to your own way?
I started my mum and dad. Long story short, my mum and dad took me to see Elton John. They told me I was going to go and see a firework display, and it ended up being an Elton John. I didn't know until Elton John walked on stage that it was a Elton John gig. And
your dad
I think
there
this was
goes,
because
it's not a firework display, but yes, I told you there would be fireworks.
no, he honestly, I even asked them. I was like, "How are they?" It was inside in like a arena, and I said, "How are they going to do these fireworks?" And my dad genuinely told me they were going to take the roof off. They were going to open the roof like Wimbledon, and that was going to be the fireworks. Anyway, I was so blown away by this concert that I then started just teaching myself Elton songs off YouTube. I just watch tutorials on YouTube, and that was how I learned songs.
So are you able to pinpoint your kind of passion for music coming from that one moment, would you say?
Yeah.
Really?
100%. Just that gig, yeah.
That one spark.
Definitely. I mean, like I'd shown like a little bit of interest before, and I've always been quite a dramatic person, I think. So I think my family would say that I'm quite a dramatic person. So I think it was always likely I was going to be interested in perhaps the arts, but I'd done like a little bit of singing in the choir. I think I sang at my granddad's birthday or something. I did like a bit of Rat Pack. I did like Beyond the Sea. I liked Sinatra and Bobby Darin and some of that. But it was the Elton show, and there was something about the piano I just thought it was amazing. There's just the power in that instrument and the size of the instrument, and then someone making it cool. You know, like whether
Yeah,
you're an Elton fan or not, like for me, it was so cool. Like, you know, and then I dug into all of the stuff from like the 70s and stuff, which to me was even cooler. You know, this young guy with this kind of squeaky voice writing these amazing songs,
yeah,
you
and it's
know.
coming from that character of who he was to who he became in a very short and explosive, sort of like a firework, like
Oh,
manner
totally.
as
I
well.
just
Where
thought it was so cool, you know.
yeah, I
And
don't
then I
feel like
was
the
into
movie
like
does it
Jerry Lee
justice.
Lewis and sorry, go on.
I don't feel the movie does it justice, like the journey he took.
I think it's a good movie. I do have a friend in the movie as well, which
Okay.
yeah, it's great. And I got a little like a rocket ship tattoo
Oh,
on my
sick!
arm as well around the same time. I
Oh,
toured
no
with my
way!
friend and he was in that and we talked. I know, yeah.
What did he do?
It
Was
was
he an
quite cool.
extra,
So
or
that's
did he have a speaking part?
he was in Elton's band in the movie.
Oh,
So
no way!
that was pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be so
Yeah, but
cool.
we met just after the movie came out, and then we went on tour. And then I was like, "No way, you're in the Elton movie." I was like, "Have you met Elton?" And I think he had. And I was like, "No way."
So I've got, whilst we're on
So
stories of Elton, I've got one for you, which you're going to absolutely hate. So my brother, he's 2 years younger than me, and he has, to put it bluntly, no music taste whatsoever. As you would say, he's into all the newer
okay,
age grime type stuff and whatnot. It's got a market, and he's part of that market. But he went on a solo trip to New York, probably about 2 years ago now as well, maybe a bit less than that. And he went on a solo trip to New York, and then he was in Times Square. And then there was an artist playing, and he said it was shit, he didn't like it, and because he said this guy was wheeled out on a wheelchair. He played towards a piano, he played some songs, and then left, and he just thought it was a bit weird. And then it was only afterwards that somebody who had searched who it was found out that it was Elton John and his last ever live show. His final
no
live
way.
show in
Well, recently,
his
it's like
final show in America, I think it was.
wow, that's
Final
amazing.
American show he'd ever do, and he announced that was going to be his final American show. Didn't even know who he was. Didn't know who he was. Didn't care. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, didn't know who he was. Didn't care, and he just kind of, everyone who knows who he was like, what's going on? How can you just be so not appreciate it? But it's almost like
man.
you having a massive like celebrity buzz off somebody, and somebody else goes and meets them, doesn't even know who they are. It's like, what?
Yeah,
I'm grateful.
yeah. I mean, I don't. Well, it's more whether you like his music or not. I don't know how you've missed Elton John. It's Elton John. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so it all came down from that one moment there, and I'd say personally that's from, what do you say, 12 years old?
Yeah, I was 12. Yeah, around about 12 when I went to see that. Yeah.
At 12 years old, having something that struck you that powerfully and that potently to
Totally.
spark off a whole, not just career, but life, and inspired you for a whole life within the arts, within music, with piano as well. To see that influence kind of spread the way it has, I'd say that's quite lucky for most.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a snowball effect then, because then I was learning the Elton stuff and I was doing that, and then I was like, well, if I like this, I've got to check out the Beatles. So then I got every Beatles record. A friend gave it to me. He had like downloads of all of the Beatles records.
Yeah.
So then I was like, Bluetooth them, I think, to my phone, and then I would listen to all of those. And then I started buying, on CDs, and then I started just collecting music of just like all of these. ELO, that was another one. I got like my mum and dad got me a greatest hits. So then I was going through mum and dad's music cupboard, and it was Queen and Yellow and the Beatles, and then McCartney's solo catalogue, and then it's the Rolling Stones, and then it's just like
all
there's
music
so much
where you
music, and then you're discovering, and each artist for me was like a new start. And this is like slightly my problem, is I'll go off in so many different tangents. I don't know who I am anymore. But then it was like, okay, I want to be in the Rolling Stones, and then I want to be,
because all of the artists
in the
you've
Beatles.
just listed off all have something, that kind of magical extra in their music. It's not just an artist just because it sounds cool. It's an artist that have had a monumental impact, and their songs mean a lot to a lot of people. So it's not almost
Yeah.
like it's hard to say that it's a problem for yourself, but it's got to be a problem for everybody. If you hear a Beatles song, Rolling Stones song, again, like the Paul McCartney stuff, solo stuff, Elton John, Queen, all of those ones, as influences go towards your music, I can see personally that it shows. It shows with what you're playing, that it doesn't deteriorate for you from you. I feel like it gives you more options and allows you to express yourself in whichever way that you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's
Because you're not stuck to a certain pattern or a certain mood or a certain feeling or a certain vibe. This is like however you're feeling at that time. And that, the way I see it from any creative, you can see from their stuff, if they're good enough at their art and their craft, like yourself, it just means that they're better at portraying how they feel to other people through that art, as if it were a language.
yeah, I mean, I suppose it's you're trying to grow your palette and what you're pulling from,
Mm,
and there's times when you you can limit yourself by your influences because you want to. And I think when I was younger, that was my limit, and for longer than I hoped. I think I put this kind of limit on myself because I would measure myself to my influences and wanting to sound more like them or
mm,
whatever. And I mean, in all the different avenues I went down, I had like a rock phase and played in a rock band when I was younger, and then wanted to try metal, and then realized I had no idea how to play metal music, and then eventually I found my way back to the piano, and then I was listening to a lot of kind of newer piano artists, and was really upset I couldn't write a piano song as good as them, and then the moment you let it all go is when finally all these influences find their place, in
mm.
within your world, and
You realize
you
that
can
it's
start
this
to
whole spectrum.
figure out where to place them in what you're doing, and
Mm,
maybe where to kind of respect that that's something to listen to and not what you want to write, or maybe you do, but you've got the right sort of day for it.
yeah.
And I
Well,
think,
I feel like it's almost seeing as if it's music as well is a perfect example for it. And I'm not a musician. I've been around plenty of musicians in my life. Some of my best friends and exes musicians, and the way that I've come to see it from the outside looking in is it is a language, and your influences, who you've listened to in the past, will help you then to speak better, to again portray that in a different way. Like where if you had only listened to Elton John and only Elton John the whole time, you're going to sound pretty similar to him. But
oh, totally.
if you wanted to write something, not even wanted to write something, but if that didn't feel right, kind of very fiscally feel right to how you were feeling at the time and what message you were trying to put across, it wouldn't sound right at the same time. But now, because
Yeah.
you've got such a broad spectrum of artists and you do have that passion for it as well, not just it, but you feel the way you feel when you listen to them.
Yeah, it's like it is a double-edged thing because it is like that. There's been times, and my housemate, who I've done quite a bit of writing with in the past, would testify to these, like the way they've held me back in a way. We were talking about it yesterday, about how at times when we first wrote together a few years ago, that I was so didn't know which avenue I wanted to go down, that 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 in the studio, I couldn't settle on something. I couldn't settle on an idea. I couldn't follow through with the idea and
Mm,
and reach the completion of the song. But then, yeah, there is the other side of it, which is if you do kind of then figure out where your voice sits. I don't just mean your singing voice, but like your kind of expression, your
yeah.
voice, what how you sound, who you are. Then then you do end up then figuring out where they all line up and sit together,
Mm,
you know. But there was something during the pandemic. I was going through quite once I did my 13 songs thing, I then went into quite a lot of writer's block, and there was a lot of factors that led it up to that. But there was a day I rang my now housemate, and I was like, I'm really struggling to write a song. I just can't do it. How do you do it? And he's like, what do you mean, how do you write a song? I mean, it's such a complex question, and I can't just help you. I don't know how to answer that. And then he said, how much music are you listening to at the moment? And I said, well, I'm listening to The Stranger by Billy Joel a lot. I love that album.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, anything else? I said, no. About that? Right. Just that album. I said, yeah, I've listened to it on repeat. Love it. I was like, yeah, but you need to listen to something else. It's like, oh, really? I said, yeah. I was like, yeah, but I want to sound like that. I love that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but you really need to listen to something else, because your palette to draw from, your palette of melodies and ideas and dynamic, or whatever you're pulling from within that music, is so small now. You're boxing yourself into this thing.
It's
you
almost
can't
that.
pull away from.
Yeah, it's that age-old kind of saying of not what you think about, you bring about, but you kind of like, you're influenced so much by what's around you, and not just within music, but in terms of how you feel, the things that you're interested in doing, what you think about on a day-to-day basis, and then what you end up doing stems majorly from your influence. And I can imagine I've never really thought of it this way, but to narrow that down so much into music itself, of course, your palette is going to make a massive difference to what you're inevitably able to paint.
Yeah. I think the more ingredients you've got, the more you can pull from. But there is also the other side, which is, I also really believe in applying then limitations as well. So it's really, and I think a lot of it, that's a lot of finding your creative process, and so everyone's different, and everyone's going to have a different parameter on where they set this. There's, for me, I find a lot of inspiration in a broad spectrum of music, in lots of different sounds and lots of different sonic textures and things. So, and that's something that I've learned to respect within myself, because if I limit myself musically and sonically, I will become uninspired. And then within that, I will find my little place to sit in what I'm doing. Even if I am just doing one certain sound at one point, it's because I've figured it out by getting there and by writing. If I put out 5 piano songs, which I know is more my sort of sound, it's taken me about 4 rock songs and then 4 weird little soundscapes, and then it's taken like a blues song and a Motown song and a ska song that I've written to find my way to these 4 or 5 piano songs that I wanted to write 3 months ago.
So you've
I
taken
have
that
to find that route there.
Yeah,
through my influences.
You've taken that full spectrum of, I'm just going to keep using the palette and the color analogy here, taking all those colors and it's kind of turning the wheel slightly here, slightly there, and kind of narrowing down from these different influences what hits the nail on the head of how you're feeling and how you want it to sound.
But enjoying working through all the different things. I've got a song I wrote like 2 months ago that's like me trying to write a Wet Leg song. I'm trying to write like a little kind of like indie kind of grungy sort of rock thing. And then the song before that is like a jazzy Christmas song that was me trying to write something for Frank Sinatra. And they were the two songs that sat next to each other. And the next song was me trying to write something that was more like the band Keane or The Fray. And they were like 3 that I wrote in like 2 weeks together. But that's, and then the final song was the one that I was like, that's my sound, and I'm really proud of that. But it took me these other ones to get there.
So would you say you weren't necessarily proud of the other ones, or did you feel like they didn't suit your character or your sort of, I don't want to say brand image, because we're more than like brands, but I've heard from a friend of mine, he's a sort of indie rock musician, singer-songwriter, he just started his own band as well. that from the way he puts it is that there's so many things he loved to sing and loved to do, because he had done he's done cover gigs since he was 15 years old, and he's now 25, in all the pubs doing all of your like Oasis kind of like all those type of songs, the heavy hitters in the pubs, and he's made a living doing so from doing that. However, he explains it to me when he's coming to write his stuff that he's built his own image up in a way where the people who love him and like him and want to listen to him are expecting a certain sound and a certain person to step up on stage. Where he says he's written lots of songs, but like you just said, only a very select few of them fit what it is that he wants to put across as himself.
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of getting at here is saying, at what point do you feel that you should be writing for yourself versus writing for what you think is palatable to an audience coming from you?
I think firstly, if you care about it and connect with it, then there's a chance that other people will. So there's that kind of level of like learning to trust your own choices and your own tastes, you know, and a lot of that is what will help you then write the best stuff, I think, because then you can get into a flow, and if you're thinking too much about it, then you're not. I don't know. There's something in your subconscious that makes you write the best stuff.
Yeah,
and so
it's almost like it is magic, and that's what I get completely from not just within music, but from any kind of walk of life. The best results I have ever had in anything that I do is where I very much just switched off, and lack of a better expression, just let God take the wheel.
Yeah, that's
it flows out
you
of you.
get in a flow. That's the best. Yeah, best creative state.
Well, I see that a lot when you do
your.
When I've seen any videos, I've seen lots and lots of clips of you on the piano performing. It almost seems as if you are raptured when you're playing, and the way you play, the way you throw out certain notes or certain riffs whilst you're doing it, especially on a request-only show, for you to be able to play that with your own spin and mix things together at the same time is like the only way I could describe that is that you're an artist in flow.
Well, it's like, but that's where the limitation comes in, you know, and that's where I've like really, and that's something that's only in the last year that I've really started to try and embrace that. Is I've always, when I've played, because I've had to play live on my own a lot, you're limited to the piano or the guitar sometimes, mostly piano for me. So it's, and I've always wanted to like the audience to kind of feel a certain level of energy that they would get from the original track, which I still do, and I still like to, and that's why I play with quite a lot of energy, because I want it to try and, I don't want it to just because I'm on the piano, I want everything to feel like a ballad or feel like it has to be slow and has to be interpreted slowly.
I mean, the last thing I imagine you want to feel like as a pianist is as if you're playing in the background at a restaurant.
No, and I've done that a lot of times. I've done a lot of shows, and a lot of times I've been the background music. And sometimes that's what a gig will require, and you've got to turn up and do your job, and that's part of the thing. And so there's moments where your ego gets in the way, and you're trying to like battle that ego and say, are we here for me and my ego? And sometimes you and your ego is what makes a great show for people. That's why like people, just why the Rolling Stones are the Rolling Stones.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know how much ego they still have left on stage, but there's got to be some kind of ego that creates that kind of thing. It was why you got 200,000 people looking at Mick Jagger, and he holds that whole crowd together. There is, because if he didn't have an ego, he wouldn't have that level of presence on the stage, But then there's moments where you think, but should my ego be here? And and I think as your career goes on in music as well, and especially like coming from also being a working musician and a session player and doing a lot of gigs to to pay my rent and whatever. There's also moments where it's not your ego that creates the special moment. It's something from someone in the audience and how that's touched somebody and how that's given them a memory, or they've helped them through something or whatever. And there's moments where you realize you have to let go of your ego and say, perhaps the service that I'm doing for people here is something different, and it's about giving them something, or backing off from what I'm trying to do just for
Yeah.
today, or even just for an hour, or just for half an hour. And a lot of those request shows as well, I always try and keep a bit of myself in the show, because I feel like that, like I say, that's, if you've got a little bit of ego in there, that's when you can really give someone something
A
slightly
personalized show.
elevated
It's you.
and
It's from
stuff.
you.
Yeah,
It's a
it
personal
is,
gift.
and it's bringing. If I didn't have any level of ego, I would never stand on the piano stool and try and do a show, because I wouldn't care. Your ego makes you care about things. Because you want people to go away and go, "Oh, that guy's really good. We had a really good night, and he did a really good job."
Yeah.
But yeah, there's those moments when you have to let go and you have to just let it. You turn up to do your service,
Yeah.
and whatever.
I feel like that. I feel like everybody in their own walk of lives have those days, and bringing that back to, like you were saying, Mick Jagger as well. As much as the ego is what built them as a band, and it built their audience, and it's what people expect to come and see. Even then, to maintain that level, to maintain that how you were feeling on that one time, which may have taken off, or what people are now expected to see. I'd argue not only is it hard to do it, I'd say it's impossible. You can't replicate that feeling. It came from that flow. It came from how you were feeling then
Yeah,
when you were on that stage, when you're standing on the chair, playing the piano. Yes, you've got to bring a lot of it to it, but I feel people are very attuned to knowing when things are authentic and when they're not, and when it's being
I suppose
forced at
that's
the
the
same
thing. You're
time.
trying to balance. Yeah, you need to balance the kind of authenticity is such a complicated thing to understand, I suppose. But like, yeah, I suppose I've always just tried. Well, as I've, you know, in the last couple of years, I think I've matured a little bit in a live sense, and I've started to understand, my voice in that world, and what I'm doing in that, and kind of become more confident in my musical sound, and then how that translates live, and embracing the piano more, and whatever. And yeah, I'm losing my train of thought here. Talking
Well,
about the Rolling Stones, and I'm getting distracted.
yeah,
But yeah, there is that kind of yeah, you're trying to keep a bit of yourself in the show, and people like when things are personal to them, because it makes it more memorable. And there's there's moments when people would have told me before to omit certain jokes and stories, or certain approaches to my live show, or been like, "Oh, I don't think you should do it like that. I don't think you should play that song. I think you should do that." And now I'm just trying to trust my instincts, and I feel like that makes a better show. And if people don't like it, they don't like it, and that's absolutely fine. But
yeah.
I'm finding that I think more people do enjoy it when I'm more myself, and so I'm just trying to learn to be more of that, you know. So
It's kind
I
of
think
an
that was
odd
what I was trying to
concept,
say.
isn't it, to feel that you need to learn to be yourself, but it is deadly true within your line of work and your passion in your life, as in anybody else's. Where I feel like for us, from a young age, the majority of people, especially when your livelihood is built upon an audience's impression of
Yeah,
yourself, it's
because
very easy
you're
to.
you're still putting a persona on, even if you're playing a small show. Just because you're not playing Hyde Park or Wembley Stadium doesn't mean it's still not like a certain level of persona that you put on when you walk on stage. There's, you know, I've done shows on some of the worst days, you know, and I've been on stage on days when I've lost people close to me, and I've got to go to work tonight. I've got to go and do it because I need the money. I need to go and play the show. I need to walk on stage and do the show. or I've got to
Yeah.
fulfill a contract or whatever, and gone, there's no way out of this gig, or even the gig has been a help, it's been a therapy to get through that
Yeah.
day or whatever,
Well, that is.
and I've gone on stage and gone, right, I've had a really terrible, I found out I lost my grandma about an hour before I walked on stage, and I went on and played the show. And I didn't talk about it. And I just was like, okay, let's do it. And it did help. It helped me through that evening. But it was like, walked on, and was like, right, smile, everybody. And then I tried to put my act on, and I did my show. And I don't think anyone really knew anything was up. And then you come off, and it really helped that day, since that particular example. But it's still a persona that you're doing, but I suppose it's trying to like figure out where that persona sits in who you are, rather than kind of crafting a persona.
Yeah.
Some people are amazing at doing. I'm not. I'm really not good at like crafting the persona. I'm better at kind of like channeling myself into a live persona.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, no, it definitely does, and it makes a lot of sense, because I've seen, and in today's day and age, especially with how online media works and your brand image and what you're trying to put across to people, and finding your niche within what you're doing as well. It's the way I've come to see it more for myself now is not so much that people are necessarily good at crafting a persona. There are businesses and very smart psychologists, I believe, who are very good at crafting, let's say, like an Ariana Grande or a Taylor Swift, and that is their persona. That's who they have to be, because that's what people are expecting. It's a mass market audience. But the way I come to understand it for everybody else, and what it should be for your own kind of mental health and own peace of mind, is that the ones who craft the best personas and the ones who portray themselves the best on stage or in front of an audience or in any line of work are the ones who get out of their own head the most in thinking that they have to be a certain type of way. Because as soon as you stop trying to be a certain way, then you naturally become yourself.
Totally. But I would also say, like, I mean, like Taylor Swift, I think is actually a I don't know her whole story, and I don't know, the whole behind the scenes. But I do actually think she's a very good example of someone that's actually been herself and managed her own persona a lot. You look at how much she's changed each record she's made. She done one thing and then moved to another thing, another thing, another thing, another thing.
Yeah, no, you are right.
And
That's
she
probably
really
a very
is the architect.
Yeah.
Architect
the character arc.
of
Yeah,
her thing and her. Yeah, I mean, she I think she's an amazing example of someone. I mean, look how successful she is. She's so herself, and
to be fair, that's on my behalf a very poor example of a to give. I was just thinking of somebody larger. Okay, let's say for an example, a perfect example then being Lizzo.
I don't
Because
know. I think she could be a great example too.
we may have to,
I really struggle with the idea. I mean, there is an industry there's an industry conversation to have about it, because there's like which I've struggled with some my experiences in the industry in terms of actual particular artists. I don't know. I think a lot of artists care very, very deeply about what they're doing and are up against quite a lot of a machine that they're trying to express themselves really well.
I'd imagine so. I'd imagine so. I don't necessarily mean for their own sake. The reason I brought up Lizzo as an example is because I know full well of a lot of drama that she's had previously, where obviously her image is she's a larger lady, and she is a very empowering and empowers a lot of people because of that. When she was touring, naturally whilst touring, because of doing so many back-to-back shows, traveling a lot, dancing a lot, she was losing weight. And as she was losing weight,
I don't know.
As she was losing weight, her audience started to turn on her, saying that she is no longer an ambassador for their people, whatever that means.
Okay.
Because of her changes that she was doing, out to the point where Lizzo came out and publicly said that she doesn't intend to lose weight. She apologizes if it offends anybody, but it's just the reality of her moving more than she's eating. She had to apologize
Wow.
to her audience because that's what they've come to expect and that's what they love from her, and that is her. And it's a trap.
Yeah, and
It's a trap built by what she became famous for. And it's not her fault. It's not what she'd want. Everybody wants people to accept them for who they are, but in a wider audience scale,
right.
unfortunately, I believe that's not what a lot of people like. A lot of people love to, well, not necessarily love to, but everyone kind of pigeonholes other people and artists in a way that fits very compartmentally into their own head. If you see Taylor Swift as this type of person and James Blunt as this type of person versus Billy Joel as this type of person, it's definitely not conducive to their. It's not great to say that because they're a whole person. Everyone's a whole person with all these on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, totally.
However, where people see them and where they envision them is great for their business because it's because it's palatable. It's very easily marketable. Where if you're putting out across a brand image, which you can share everywhere, as this is who you want for this type of show, this is who you want for this type of performance, this is who you want if you want to target this type of audience, then it makes it very good for the larger music-making machine. However, as an artist, I believe that's, well, not I believe, it's not what you want. You want to be able to be yourself.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that is tough. It's tough. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I'm not a big enough artist, really. I think to have huge, like the level of pressure that other people like that will experience. But yeah, you do feel a certain level of pressure, and I've certainly experienced a lot of pressure from people I've worked with to be a certain sound and do a certain thing, which can help some artists. I think just for some people it depends who you're working with and what kind of music, and what the act is, and a lot of variables. For some people it helps lift them up, for some people it doesn't. Some people it holds them back. I know artists that are doing really, really, really well without a team, and that have found what their niche is and what their direction is and where their audience is and where their platform is, that are doing really well by doing it a different way, and then for some others they go a different way, and they need their persona sits in a different world and whatever. So it's really depends on the artist and depends on what their audience is and what they're trying to do, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, what I'll ask then is, where do you feel that you fit into what you're trying to do, into your industry, into your area, with how you play, how you perform? Where would you feel that you fit in the most?
I don't know, really. I don't really feel like I fit in very well. No, but that is the thing. Actually, I've never really felt like I fitted in, and I've tried, and I've been signed to different record labels and done different things, and never quite felt like I've got into a flow when I've tried to fit in with, and I will get quite anxious then about my decisions that I've made and be like, oh, am I putting out the wrong kind of music? Does that sound wrong?
Yeah.
Does that music video not look right? Does that session sound bad? Does my voice sound bad on that song? I have all those worries.
You get that analysis
I'll
paralysis.
delete a photo just the same as anyone else and go, oh, I don't think that fits with the brand. Maybe that photo is why. I mean, this is the real pit of the cycle. Maybe that photo is the reason I didn't get signed, or the reason they dropped me, or that. And then you have to drag yourself away and be like, do you know what? I don't think any of it matters. It just hasn't happened for a certain reason, or whatever,
Yeah, no, I mean, you're definitely. I feel like you're definitely right within that. I mean, even for myself, with whatever I do and whatever I put out there, like, what were you trying to think? What could you do differently? What could you not do? What have you done wrong? And you get into that deep pit, as you say, of analysis paralysis, and it's like, right, I'm doing something wrong, or else it would have worked. However, at the same
Yeah.
point, a lot of it is luck, and the majority of it being that that one tail event. It could be that one person in the audience who really likes you, or maybe that one day of inspiration where you write one song or make one little clip which goes viral, which changes absolutely everything. So long as obviously you're still in the game, doing something every day and enjoying what you do, eventually,
Yeah.
not only are you going to get better, you're going to get a lot better at what you do and understand yourself better. Eventually, something's going to, if you're lucky enough. Because whenever I listen to your stuff and see your music and how you play and how you perform and the type of gigs and audiences you play to, I see you as a very, very intimate artist. I see you as somebody
Yeah, I've
through what
tried.
you play.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. That's something that's I think developed more. I mean, I've done a lot of these kind of request shows over the years, and done runs of request shows on ships and things like that, which sat at odds with what I was maybe doing artistically. You know, I was maybe playing in a band that it didn't sit with that, and then maybe solo stuff that I was writing or whatever label I've been on, and then kind of I've gone in totally independent really in the last year or so, and in my head was like maybe I should look for another manager or do something, or maybe look for a new label, or and I'm just taking my time with it because I'm really enjoying kind of just being on my own, and I've really found my feet in who I think I am. Not that I can really describe what that is too well, but like even like my request shows, even playing other people's music, I feel like I can put myself into those shows because I will interpret songs, and like I was going to say earlier, the limitation of just having the piano is like, well, okay, you've got a piano, that's what you've got to work with, you know,
Yeah,
and that's all you've got, so that's what's going to be the show.
yeah,
And then it's like, okay, if you've got like you can do anything, and it's almost, where do you even start, and when it's like you've just got a piano, um, it's suddenly you've got all these options in a way, because it's like, well, it's just this, and you've got to find something within that, and that suddenly I felt is just really sits with what I am trying to do as an artist, um, and I think it's got me more and more into the world of what first inspired me into getting into music, and takes me back to learning Elton John songs,
yeah.
and
So now
then
you kind of
kind of
have
going into his career, and then I look at Billy Joel and the influence I had from him, and then Leon Russell and Macca and all these people, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm actually back where I started with these kind of musicians that were playing all the kind of places that I'm playing at the moment.
it's gone full circle.
Writing their early songs in the environments that I'm in right now. Our kind of societal context might have changed slightly, but I'm doing the same job. It's still the same feeling you're trying to give people, at
Yeah,
a show. And then I come to write my own music, and then my request shows really inform the feel of my solo shows, my concerts,
yeah.
and sort of like touring show. So that then inspires that, and then the request shows. There's so much spontaneity in it that I get so many stories from that, and so much sort of material that I can put into my touring show, and that can inspire songs, and then suddenly they're all mixed together, and it's like, I think that's the world I like to sit in, and I like to connect with people. I like people to go away from my show and feel
I
like
love
they
that.
know me, even if they don't. I want them to feel like we're good friends, and that they can kind of. I have a lot of people that come up to me after my shows and almost like can trust me with stories and secrets, or even, things that they've been through, and they'll say, "Oh, I heard that song, I never heard it before, but it made me think of this," and I've sometimes it's, I don't know, I don't even fucking rise to the moment and say the right thing, but it's quite an honor, and then you realize really that's what you're trying to do, and that's the most valuable thing within all of this that we're trying to do in art and whatever value that has. Really, we're just trying to help each other out and like value, give everyone a lift, I suppose.
No, 100%. Definitely. I mean, I couldn't have put it better myself in that way, where it's in regards to how you connect with other people. Where you mentioned about the ego beforehand and forgetting your own ego in order to just do the show. When I almost feel it contradictory to that at other points, putting yourself across as yourself, truthfully and earnestly, without any pressures externally from whether it be a label or a manager or the venue manager or on ticket sales or whatever it might be, when you can truly be at the point where you can do things at your own pace, in your own time, for your own reasons, you are able to connect with people on a level which is unrivaled, especially in a performance like your own, which is so intimate in regard where the energy is palpable. Where I've seen videos and clips from your shows where you've been in a really small room with one piano and everyone's sat around, they're sat on the floor, they're sat on the walls, they're sat on the standing up sat on the bar, and everyone's gathered around almost like as if they were just taking it back to sort of like wartime, and everyone's hidden and crouched around in a bunker listening to someone play around the campfire or something like that. And that energy where you can speak to people, you playing your thing, and that vibration spreads throughout person to person. They all get that kind of feeling, and it's a lot of power to have at some points when you think about it, because you can effectively dictate the mood of a whole room full of people, and that energy that they go and take elsewhere to other people, to their family, to their friends, to their colleagues, goes and spreads even further, stemming from what you've made them feel in that room.
Yeah, it's quite special. I mean, when you do music for a living and you do it a lot, like I do, I mean, I will spend a lot of time with other musicians and whatever. You talk about the value of music as, we feel like why is our art not valued enough? And we can debate the value of it in streaming or that sort of thing. I've lost you. I've lost the screen. Yeah, you still there? You still there?
I'm still here.
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
I think we've just switched over to the webcam instead with the battery going a bit low. Doesn't matter. We're okay. We'll carry on.
All right. So what was I saying? We'll debate the value of music and the value of it. Why we're not valued enough and blah blah blah. But then sometimes there's moments where you go the other way. Like in any profession and your mental health, whatever. You then there's days you don't feel valued, or you don't, or then you don't know the value, which I think is different. Sometimes you don't know yourself the value of what you're doing. It's like an imposter syndrome, and a kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing this for. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Why am I just making songs that sometimes people don't even listen to? Or no one came to this show, or whatever. And then, but then sometimes it goes the other way, and you can kind of be reminded what the value of it is. When sometimes I will sit and play a show, and perhaps it's been a bad day, or I'm struggling with something else, whatever. And then I play the show, and you're feeling a bit like, what I'm doing this for, and whatever. And that's your ego's in the way, and your ego's trying to like tell you like, hey, like,
yeah,
this isn't worth anything. No one cares. And sometimes
I
you
feel
think, well, I don't want to do the thing, and you know, and but sometimes it's the other way, and it's then like I said before, about letting go of the ego that makes you do the things that make put on a good show, and just say, well, and I've always been a big fan of the artists I mentioned earlier, but people that were kind of crowd pleasers that would go on stage and do the thing. I thought Paul McCartney's always been the best at walking on and being Paul McCartney. He's Paul
yeah,
McCartney for people,
yeah,
and he gives
definitely.
them Paul McCartney, you know. And I've always had a lot of respect for that. And Elton was the same, and Bowie was very much himself, but he always gave people Bowie, you know.
Mm.
And I appreciated that, and I like people that can go on and play the greatest hits, because people want to hear the greatest hits. You know, you
Yeah.
want to hear those tunes. You want to play a show that gives people that thing, and then
Well, I mean,
and then
that's
you
as you
kind
were
of come
saying, that
away and there's
professionalism before. You mentioned that professionalism
yeah,
is sometimes, regardless of what's going on, and that's where, as it becomes, well, anything we do, and that's you were saying about the value of music. I believe very much so in the value of music being in terms as a service to other people. It helps people to
yeah,
untie and untangle whatever's going on in their life. They can switch off and they can do something else. You help them to do that. And regardless of, yes, you may not be feeling great to perform a song that you performed a million times beforehand. It's very likely to be that the majority of the audience is first time seeing it live, or if they've paid to come and see you, they've never seen you live, and that's what they've been excited for. And it's somebody they've connected with so much online or through the record player that they're now able to come and see and experience a euphoric feeling that you get when you share that expression with a whole room, audience, arena full of people. And that's kind of
yeah,
something that you feel like you've got to have in the back of your mind, regardless of how big or small, whether it be Wembley or at a park or busking. It's something that
yeah.
it keeps you going, and you've got to keep. There's a reason I believe firmly that.
Just sorry to stop you. My battery's gonna go in a second. So could I just grab the charger? So
Yeah,
can
of
we just
course.
pause it just for like 2 minutes, just
Yeah,
while I
no
get a
worries.
charger?
You do that.
Cheers, man. It's just gonna. I thought it was gonna last longer than this.
Don't worry about it.
Shit. Right, can you just plug this in? All right. He's still there. He's still connecting.
I'm here. Yeah, so on. Trying to
Oh
figure
my
out how
god,
this
what is he
works.
listening to? My housemate's listening to Silly Love Songs by Paul McCartney. Love it.
Speaking of,
On vinyl.
ooh,
Love it.
lovely. Yeah, I mean, you get it from a
Is
lot
this
of
gonna work?
musicians. You got it. What are you recording on,
Yeah,
by
there
the
we
way?
go. It's a bit temperamental. Just a MacBook.
Right, yeah. No, I had the same. That's why the quality suddenly dropped out, because I had to plug it in, and to plug it in, I was using my phone to
It keeps
do the
falling
webcam.
down. It's really bothering me. Right, carry on then.
Yeah, so the way I kind of, I've lost my train of thought now. It's gone. But yeah, I mean, again, you're saying about the duty you have, and I mean, like, it's very easy to get lost in the weeds of purpose when, to some degree, you did it in the first place. Like, you started it for a reason. You knew it was going to be difficult. Maybe you thought it may have been easier than it would have been. But I don't think any of that takes away from what you're going to give, what you do give to other people. Considering how.
I hope not. I mean,
Carry on.
no, go on. I mean, it's just you do realise, I think like with anyone, you have your ups and downs within the career and what you're doing, and like what you're aiming for, and kind of how you're measuring your success. But at the same time, it's letting go of that, where you find, a real value in it, and I feel really lucky I'm not playing stadiums and massive shows and streaming huge numbers. But I do wake up every day and make music, and I've made it work. And I feel so lucky to do that, you know. And there's days that I forget about that, and I think, like anyone, you get lost within the anxieties of your life and other things, which I think is totally fair enough. I think within the context of all our lives, we're all allowed to worry. I don't think it's fair to not allow someone to worry just because they have a fun job. But at the same time, you know, it's also like your duty to try and enjoy it as well, and like, and be grateful for the fact that I get to do it for a living. It's great and it's fun. And then there's really special moments that really remind you the power of it as well. You do it all the time, and it's like, I think this is what I was going to say earlier, but I didn't get around to my point. It's like we can talk about the value of it amongst musicians because we're anxious about it and we want it to have some value. And then someone can come along and kind of tell you what the value of it is in a way that we haven't thought about it, because we're overthinking it, because we want it to be worth something. We want
You're
it
too
to
close.
be like, we want to be like paid fairly and all these things, and we want it to mean something. We want our songs to be the most meaningful pieces of art and whatever. And then someone will just come over and just say, I had an amazing time watching your show, blah, 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 blah. This means this to me, and I connected to this. And I listen to your song every day, or your song's in my playlist. Or you know, I listen to this song at my wedding, or this, and then you kind of, you know, or even deeper, even more, whatever they want to tell you. And then you kind of go, oh, I didn't think about that. And it'll be a much simpler, sort of deeper response. And people are connecting to it far more than you even think they are, far more than you even expecting them to, or wanting them to, or wishing them to. They're going further, and they're connecting with it in another way, in a personal way. And then that's when you realize there's value in what you're doing. And I think that's, if you can hold on to that and keep your ego in check and use it in the right place, that's when you really do find, for me anyway, I found a real like love for what I'm doing. I found my sound more. I played a better live show. I've become just a better musician. All from a little bit just letting go of kind of like what I think I should be, and just going, I'll just be, and I'll just do it, and I'll try and do a good show. And then everything gets better.
Yeah. As soon as you drop those weights, those shackles, you're allowed to float. You're allowed to rise. You're allowed to be more than yourself and sound better and to feel better and to be more of service. But you're unconsciously holding yourself down by overthinking
to a degree,
it, by like that.
Yeah, by trying too hard in a way. I've been meaning to get a tattoo that just says "Stop Caring" for years, and I've never got it. I do have a series of quite bad tattoos that I'm getting.
The Rocket Man, the Rocket Shift.
Kind of my thing is, I do. Yeah, I like it. They're just all very. I do have a really good one of my granddad's art on my leg, which is great. But yeah, because that's the thing. Just stop caring about it. Like, care to a point of like making it good, but actually, you can care more about the output of what you're doing by not caring so much about it. And I know that kind of like
that it's always that you cannot
doesn't
describe.
make sense, but it is. You have to like let go a little bit and not care so much about. I couldn't write songs for a year because I cared too much about trying to write the best song that's ever been written.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day that I just went, do you know what? I just want to write a song. I just want to spend the day and write a song. I don't want to write the best song. And that day I wrote my next single.
Yeah.
Like, that was the day I wrote Man Boy. And it was like, I hadn't written a song that I liked for about a year and a half. And then that day, I just went, I am so bored of not writing a song and sitting here overthinking it and worrying. And I just went, I just want to write a tune. I just want to just enjoy writing a song, playing my guitar for the day.
Yeah. Eventually, you just get
And
tired
then I
of
wrote Man Boy
stressing
that
about
day.
it.
And then the next day, I wrote another single.
I love it. It's
You
like you
know?
almost get tired of debating over it and stressing over it. I almost liken it to if you've ever been cliff diving,
Yeah.
where you stand at the top for what seems like forever, and you're thinking about, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I don't do it? Is this going to happen? Or what other people going to think is going to happen? And eventually you just get absolutely
Don't do it.
sick and tired of debating it, and you're like, fuck it, let's go, whatever happens, happens. But I feel like you was mentioned a lot earlier about performing for your ego. But I feel like on the flip side of the coin, when it comes to the ego, everyone often sees that it's about bigging up your ego and inflating it. But at the same time, we do a lot of things to protect our ego, to protect ourselves. And that, whether it be writer's block or whether it be overanalyzing things or overthinking things, and that anxiety very often comes from that.
Totally.
We are protecting ourselves from potential hazards, from potential risks. What if people hate it? What if we don't put ourselves across as if we are perfect? No one's going to like it, and so on and so forth. And it's those thoughts and that energy, because there's so many different faculties and so many different things going on in our heads at any one given moment, where we mentioned earlier about being in that flow and when you're really raptured by what you're doing and how you're feeling, and those are the times at which you perform the best, you connect the best, and you feel the best, because you're no longer diverting some of your very precious energy to overthink and to create these fictitious versions of what could happen in a nightmarish situation, or even in a fanciful, I don't know what the word is, in like a fantasy of what could happen if you got it right as well, where you're not directing that energy towards it. I've been at fault so many times in the past, and even still now, where of just imagining not the bad things of what could happen in a given situation, but the good things, taking it with as if I was the most naive person ever, and it all just skyrocketed. And the point being, all of that just takes away from that energy directed at that one task, at what you're doing, how you're enjoying it, and how you're feeling it, or how you feel about it. And when you kind of find that sweet spot and get better at finding that sweet spot through experience, through purely just enjoying what you're doing, then I do believe it snowballs. It snowballs and it snowballs, and it may seem like nothing to begin with, but eventually that rises, and that you turn around and think, oh shit, how far have I come? How well have I done to be where you are? And not just in terms of a numbers game or a success game, but in terms of actually how you feel about your own stuff and how good you believe that you are, and what it is that you've produced, what it is that you've created, compared to what you would have created 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago when you first started. That's how we get better.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, just to switch up.
To add to that.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page. But to switch it up, just before we go anyway, before we wrap it up, I was wanting to set it out to you and ask you, what are you enjoying the most at the moment? And what is exciting you the most at the moment?
Enjoying the most. Well, very, very luckily, is that the word? Very, I don't know.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, I was on the phone to a friend of mine, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Oh, I'm going on holiday for 3 weeks. Do you want my studio while I'm away?"
Sweet.
I was like, "Oh my!" I was like, "Yes, I would love that." I've written with him a few times. He has a beautiful upright piano. And I was like, "Are you sure?" He was like, "Yeah, just come and use it." So I borrowed a couple of microphones, went in, no idea. I've done a lot of recording, done a lot of demoing, but I don't really know how to produce. Don't really know how to engineer. I don't know how to position microphones. All the recording I've done of the stuff that I put out myself is very much don't know what I'm doing, just trying to make something. And it's been made in bedrooms and whatever. So I went in and was like, right, okay, just gonna have a mess around. And so I mic'd up his piano and tweaked it a bit and try to make it sound good. And then I clicked record, and I've pretty much been doing that for 3 weeks. I've got my last week in the studio this week, so I'm going there after this.
Awesome.
That is really exciting me. So I have this piano, and I'm really, really enjoying just learning how to produce better, and I'm producing an EP.
Beautiful.
I've been meaning to make this EP now for like a year, and I've been looking at different studios and producers to do it with. And then I found myself pretty much about 60-70% of the way through tracking the whole thing myself now. Had a couple of friends play drums on it and bass on it. I've tracked guitars, vocals, piano, pretty much everything else. And it's some of the best work I think I've ever done. And it's everything I wanted to make for a long time. And I now have this like list of about 30 or 40 songs that I'm now just working through.
Well, that's
Just like, right, I'm gonna record that, record that, record that. I've
I
recorded
love
so
it.
much piano.
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm just taking through as many songs as possible. It's like I'm recording all the music that I've compiled over the last like 5-6 years. All of the half decent stuff that's maybe listenable. There's a lot of stuff that is not listenable.
It definitely is.
But yeah, I'm going through everything that I've wanted to record for years and fixing it and re-recording it, and getting good musicians to come and play stuff on it, and then but making it sound how I want it to sound, because I'm allowed to, and this is no criticism of any other producer, but other producers have their way of doing it, and they might say, well, no, I think we should tune this vocal, or we should move this and put this there, or we should do this like this, and we'll fix this, and which is great, and they make a great record. But this time I'm allowed to keep in the things that I want to keep in, and take out the things I want to take out, and re-record what I want to re-record, and just do it how I want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's getting me a step closer to how I've always wanted my music to sound, and my songs, and gets my songs across how I want to get them across. And yeah, I'm really proud of it, and I'm really, really can't wait for people to hear it.
I love that.
So that's
I love that.
I'm really excited about that.
Because I hear it, and I'm sure loads of us do, and you notice it yourself. You've got a massive, one of your big inspirators, big inspirations to your music and how it sounds will be Billy Joel. Like Billy Joel stuff is.
Do you like Billy Joel?
Well, he's got that massive Billy Joel vibe about you and how you play, and it comes across incredibly. Would you say that you've found your sound for now? Would you still say you're still tweaking things?
Still tweaking. I think it's an ongoing process. I think the kind of the syncing of my live show with my sound has helped me find it a lot more. I'm writing more for a live show now, whereas before I was writing for a single, and you're writing for, I listen to albums and listen to records, and I've always wanted to make a record and make an album. So for a long time, I've always been writing for like, I'm gonna make an album one day, or whatever label I've been on. We want a single. We need a single. Okay, I need to write a single. So you're writing for singles, and so that makes you write in a certain way. And then it's been a gradual process. I've started doing it, and it's something that's helped my writing process a lot more. I've started trying to write for stories and storytelling, and my lyrics have become. The lyrics aren't always the most. Some are and some aren't. They're not always the most obvious stories. Sometimes they are. But like, I've over the last couple of years, I've really tried to improve my lyric writing into something that's more stories and stuff that I can talk about and stuff that is more not relatable, because I don't necessarily believe in being broadly relatable, but at least something that's kind of like personable. And then and then that's actually guiding my live show, and now I'm writing a set list for some shows I've got coming up, and I'm actually frustrated when I haven't got a song that fits the story of the show or fits within the kind of something that I want to talk about on stage, you know, and that's come from my request shows where you're improvising all night and you're trying to tell a story or keep people engaged for sometimes 3 hours, 4 hours, sometimes these shows. And so it's like, what do I talk about for 4 hours on stage? I don't just want to sit playing songs. It's trying to find stories. So
you want to have a show which is each song's going to connect it together.
Yeah, and I like telling stories, and I find that if you can tell a story, that's the moment that you put yourself into it, you know, and you can and make the show relatable and personable to people. And so when it comes to then my shows that are all of my own songs and stuff, I want that energy from the request shows into those shows. But obviously I don't have requests and covers to kind of anchor the show on. And so it's you know, my music's starting to become more about that.
You've taken away the checkpoints which you're allowed to kind of deviate towards, and you kind of get out of jail free cards or your Sweet Caroline or whatever it might be, and now it's all whatever.
Yeah, there's songs that you know, that if you're short on energy, chuck one of these songs in and they'll lift the room up. And you know, I could still play a cover or two in some of my shows sometimes. I know thousands of songs, so they're very easy to chuck a song in and that sort of thing, and I'm not afraid of that. But yeah, there is that kind of like,
well, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Songwriting, it's trying to keep the stories moving.
That's what I did want to ask you when it came, just offhand, when it came to your request shows. Do you know all these songs beforehand, or do you just figure them out by the sound of them and what you think it is?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I've done a lot of shows over the years. I think I'm nearly at 1,500 shows at this point. So, I've learned a lot of songs through a lot of shows, and a lot of people saying, "Do you know this song?" And I'm like, "No," and maybe I've learned it the next day, or if I know it close enough, I can pretty much wing it on the spot. Like if the same way someone else would listen to it on the radio and sing along because they've heard it a few times and they know the words, or they pretty much know the words, and so you can kind of like hum along and sing along to it. So for me, the best way I can explain it is that the piano, I can do that on the piano as well. So to me, just because, but I've played a lot, and for me, it's like I'm in my head. I almost like press play on the song in my head, and I'm listening to it in my head as we're going along. If that makes sense, that's my best way to describe it.
That does make sense.
It's just like singing along and playing along, and in my head, I'm thinking, okay, it goes. You know, if we're doing, I mean, I've done Superstitious for years, but that's the first song that comes to mind. So it's like Superstitious. If I was playing it for the first time, it would, in my head, I'd be thinking, okay, how's this start? It goes, okay, there's my groove. And then you're kind of like going along with it, and you think, very superstitious. And sometimes I have some words in front of me, and I can look them up, or I've got thousands of lyrics I've downloaded on my iPad, so just kind of like look for it and just be like, right, let's go. And I like the challenge. It makes you a better musician. The challenge.
100%.
I've got to figure this out, and I've got a room of people looking at me. I've got to not get this wrong.
Yeah, for sure. There's no more pressure than 1,000 eyes staring straight at you, and if you fuck up, they're gonna notice.
Honestly, it's terrifying.
It builds I can imagine. It builds a lot of character. It builds a lot of character, and you're a person who's full of charisma. Because of that, I'd argue, as well as whatever. I didn't know you beforehand. Didn't know what you used to be like as a kid. I'm not psych. I'm not going to try and analyze you from that. But from what from performing in front of people and being put in front of people and live and basically being told to figure out and entertain them. Being able to take the weight of that judgment on you is only going to will turn you into a better and better performer. A better and better performer, a better and better musician. You're forced to learn. It'd be so much different. Let's say you've done coming up to 1,500 gigs, was it?
Yeah.
If you were to just do 1,500 gigs in your bedroom alone, not in front of anybody, you would be less than a tenth the musician you are now.
Yeah, it is. I would always say if you don't want to be a musician, go out and play in front of people. And there's I would, if I was really going into it, there's certain things that I would say that's held me back because it means I've approached music in a certain way, or there's moments where I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that, I wish I'd focused on that instead, or done it, But but that's also my story and the way I've done it, and there's moments I'd wish I'd done it differently, but also you can't change everything. So that's just the way I've played, and I'm someone that's addicted to playing and working and doing it. So,
do you mean in the show?
So
each individual show, what you would have done differently, or as a path?
No, but I mean, like, as in, a path. Like, there's moments where you're like, oh, maybe I should have tried that instead, or gone down more of a studio route. I always wish I was a better producer, so I wish I'd maybe gone to more studio. And there's moments when you're driving back from a gig and you're 3 hours down the motorway at 2 a.m, and you're thinking, I don't quite know why I chose this as a career. I feel like I'm more of a driver than I am a musician at this point. I feel like I know the M1 better than anyone in the UK. But
you put the
but then
miles
you
in.
also like, but I know that also my skill sits more in a live world a lot of the time, and that.
Well, here's something. This might help. I hope this helps. But there's something that I've come to think of a lot more now. At the same, because we're of a similar age. How old are you? I'm 25. How old are you?
I'm 27. 28 this year.
Yeah, 26 this year. I feel like it's very easy to look at, given the exponential effect of skill, of how you learn skill and you get better and more reward for it further down, where it's so easy to say, oh, I wish that when I was 18 I made this decision, or at 12 I went, like 12 years old you could have never gone to that Elton John concert and your whole life could have been different. It's very easy to think that at an average life expectancy of 80, that we are 25 years out of 80 done. And therefore, the decisions that we've made previously are very... It's very easy to think that way in terms of career and what we wish we would have done in terms of developed as a skill. Well, think of it this way. If you only take of it, not as the full time you've had so far, but just as the actual active years since which you've been able to decide what it is that you want to do. So what you'd normally say is that's from 18, really. But normally, if you went to university or not, or you fuck around for a couple of years and go out drinking or whatever, you're normally looking at around 20, 21. Let's just call it 20. If you look at it in terms of years you've been able to decide for yourself and make decisions for yourself and work on what you want to work on and have a better idea and understanding yourself better, then you've no longer had 27 years out of 80. You've had 7 years out of 60. In terms of time you're going to remember, time where you've got the opportunity to develop certain skills, whether that be producing, whether that be performing shows, whether that be recording for yourself or with other people. You've got you can spend the next 20 years, you could spend the next 23 years doing whatever you want and then switch to something completely different. Fuck it, you might really find yourself interested in knitting. And you've still got half the time to work on that instead.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of time. We've got a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of time. It's, yes, you think, we've burnt certain bridges. There's no bridge which is truly burnt. Especially at this age. Hello? Are we there?
Yeah, got you. Got you now.
Yeah. Hope you managed to hear most of that. But I mean, there's no bridge that's just truly burnt for it. I mean, if you wanted to go to do more producing, or you wanted to start a band again, or you wanted to say, I don't want to do this anymore, or you've built yourself or your certain persona or sound in a certain way, there's no reason to say that you can't change that to something completely different. Yes, it might take a lot longer, but you've got a lot of time. We've got a lot of time.
Hopefully.
If we're lucky. But yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, went on a little bit of a deeper tangent, but that's fine. They always tend to at some point. But, I mean, we've been on for about an hour and a half now. I'm going off a car light because it is pitch black outside now, down in Sydney. So,
yeah, I'm just getting up. I thought I'd go make another cup of tea because I've only had one cup of tea and I don't operate until I've at least had two.
so it's not very precious of you. 8 o'clock and you only had one, or 9 o'clock and you only had one. How'd you take your tea?
Tea? No. Yorkshire tea, drop of oat milk. That's it.
That's it.
Nice and strong. Nice and strong. Yes.
Classic. Right. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it.
Big collab of other teas.
Yeah. I haven't been over here. In Australia. I haven't had tea too much, but everyone always thinks I'm really weird for how I have my tea.
Oh, really? Why?
Because I used to have it when I was a lot younger. The classic, lots of milk, lots of sugar. But then I tried it once where there just happened to be no milk in the house at the time, and there was no sugar in the house either. Where it was quite literally, you pop the tea bag in, a little stir, don't even squeeze it against the side, pull it out, very weak black, no sugar, and I've not looked back since.
Wow.
Anyway.
Well, I'll leave you with that. I'm gonna stick to my brew. I won't probably have a week back to.
Well,
you enjoy that.
I will go and enjoy that. I might have one now actually. But you enjoy. Honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Lewis. And I know you've got your tour coming up. Well, you're partway through. Yeah. Are you in London for the 11th, and then you're over in Paris?
Week. I'm doing Nottingham this week. Is it the 11th? I'm doing a little kind of secret show in Birmingham on Friday, and then I'm doing Paris next week, and then London at the end of the month, 24th, and then a hometown show in Shrewsbury on the 8th of May.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it.
It's on the website.
Yeah. I'll have a look and check. I need to check out this video as well. I'll have a look on YouTube to find the clips from the home video. I'll see it.
Yeah. It's just called Home, I think. The video. So.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, for speaking to us all about sort of the issues and the highlights and the lowlights of being a traveling musician, finding yourself, finding your voice, your inspirations. I know a lot about you as a person now and how you like to go about your music, and I'd love to go that in depth and hear that in depth and how it is from your perspective as well, and how you see it, and not how others might view it. And what I will say is, I wish you all the best. Thanks for coming on, and have a great day.
Thanks. Cheers for having me.
Take care.